Let's dive right into this explainer, guys, because we need to talk about a literal existential reality facing the global beverage industry. We're looking at the multi-billion-dollar titans behind the sodas, the juices, the coffees you drink every single day. Behind all those colorful labels and massive marketing budgets, there's a rapidly growing crisis that could, quite literally, dry up their operations. I'm talking about water management.
To really get the stakes here, check out this quote from the SASB standard. It perfectly frames everything we're about to discuss. For a beverage company, water isn't just some commodity on a balance sheet. It's a social contract. If you take too much, or if you pollute what's left, you don't just pay a fine. No, you lose your fundamental permission to operate in that community. Your social license is gone.
So we have to ask the big question. When the well runs dry, will your favorite brand actually have the strategies and that crucial social license to survive? It's a high-stakes race against climate change, regulatory crackdowns, and fierce competition for a completely finite resource. By the end of this explainer, you're going to see exactly how the biggest players are scrambling to ensure their survival.
Moving on to Section 1, the ultimate essential input. The baseline fact here is that non-alcoholic beverages rely entirely on massive, uninterrupted volumes of clean water.
As you can see from the industry standard we're breaking down today, water is the absolute lifeblood for finished products. Any disruption to the local water supply isn't just, a minor headache for these guys. It's a catastrophic business risk. A real disruption can halt production lines, dramatically inflate costs, and erode market share almost overnight.
Now, this is really interesting. There is a critical distinction we absolutely have to make between water simply withdrawn versus water actually consumed. When a facility withdraws water, they might eventually return some of it to the source. But consumed water? That is permanently removed from the local ecosystem. It evaporates, it gets sealed inside the beverage bottles, or it gets diverted away to the sea. It's gone.
Which brings us to the core conflict, the water scarcity threat. Let's zoom in on the specific regions where this essential input is under severe threat. Because remember, it's not just about how much water a company uses, but exactly where they're pulling it from. Companies are actually required to use tools like the WRI Aqueduct to publicly track their footprint in danger zones. They have to reveal exactly what percentage of their water comes from regions facing high baseline stress, meaning 40 to 80% of available water is regularly depleted, or extremely high stress regions, where that number goes over 80%. Operating in these red zones is literally like walking a tightrope without a net. And this beautifully illustrates the two-front war these companies are fighting. On one side, you have the physical limits of nature. We're talking devastating droughts, massive seasonal shifts, the whole reality of climate change. And on the other side, fierce local competition and regulatory hurdles. Bottling plants are fighting for the exact same water as local farmers and municipal users, which drives up costs and puts a huge target on their operational permits.
And here's a massive point. The risk doesn't stop at the bottling plant's front door. It extends all the way down the supply chain to their Tier 1 agricultural suppliers. Think about the massive, hidden volumes of water required just to grow the sugarcane, the coffee beans, the tea leaves that go into these drinks. If those agricultural suppliers are operating in highly stressed regions, the entire product line is incredibly vulnerable, no matter how efficient the actual factory is.
Okay. Let's shift to the back end of the process in our next section, protecting the social license. This is just as critical for survival.
Because it's not just about what companies take out, right? It's about what they put back. Bottling plants inevitably release large quantities of liquid waste, known as effluents. And releasing these effluents without proper, rigorous wastewater treatment is a guaranteed way to destroy local trust and get your operations shut down by regulators.
Managing this discharge is highly complex. It's not just about filtering out chemicals. Temperature control is actually a huge factor here. If a plant discharges perfectly clean water, but it's simply too hot, it can instantly kill off local aquatic life. So failing to manage any of these discharge risks, whether it's temperature or retaining permits, immediately triggers regulatory backlash and some seriously steep operating costs.
It all ties right back to survival. If a company mismanages its withdrawals or carelessly dumps wastewater, it shatters the trust of the local community, the NGOs, and the regulators. Once a beverage brand loses that social license to operate we talked about earlier, the community will actively fight to turn off the taps. At that point, the facility is effectively dead in the water, pun totally intended.
So, how do they fix this? Let's look at strategies for survival. How do these massive corporate entities,
actually mitigate these existential risks?
They certainly can't just hope for rain. They need rigorous, scalable strategies. It generally starts with strict target setting, measuring water use by absolute volume or by intensity per bottle produced. From there, companies are investing heavily in cutting-edge efficiency. We're talking closed-loop systems that infinitely recycle water within the plant and driving innovations to redesign factory equipment so it fundamentally requires less water from the very start.
To manage all of this on a global scale, these corporations obviously aren't just guessing. They deploy some highly sophisticated analytical tools, like the WWF Water Risk Filter, the Global Water Tool, and the Water Footprint Network Tool. These platforms let them map out every single facility and supplier on Earth, dynamically analyzing water use, identifying emerging risks, and pinpointing opportunities for conservation across their entire portfolio.
But perhaps most importantly, beverage companies realize they cannot solve this in a vacuum. They have to step outside their factory walls and actively collaborate with the very communities they share this finite resource with. By establishing formal protection programs with local organizations, they help secure the local watershed for everyone. And of course, that directly protects their social license to operate.
But here is a fascinating twist that makes this whole thing so difficult. As companies implement these intensive, high-tech water practices, they face hidden life cycle trade-offs. Intensely filtering and recycling water requires massive amounts of electricity. So executives are constantly having to ask themselves, is saving a single drop of local water secretly causing a spike in greenhouse gas emissions globally? Does treating water increase land use elsewhere? It is a very delicate, high-stakes balancing act.
Ultimately, understanding these hidden mechanics completely changes how we look at the beverage industry. It's not just about flavor formulas and marketing campaigns anymore, it's about mastering the global water cycle. So, I leave you with this. The next time you open a drink, think about the immense, complex journey of the water inside it. And ask yourself, when the well runs dry, will your favorite beverage brand actually have the strategies and the community trust to survive the coming decades of water scarcity?